Hey, how you doing? All right, today I want to talk about a guy named Alan Moore. He's a famous author. He's also a magician, and I don't say that lightly. What does that mean? Well, it's pretty cool. He's basically a hell of a spellcaster. And when you'll understand a little bit more about what I mean by that in a second, but you've probably heard of Alan Moore. He wrote uh, a lot of really famous comics, including Watchmen, V for Vendetta. What else was there? Let's see, From Hell. With like some of these have been made into movies. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, all very cool. Anyways, I recently started taking his master class. You know, on the BBC, and when you look at the guy, he's he's pretty crazy looking, but he has a phenomenal record for being one of the best selling authors in the world, one of the most influential authors in the world. And he calls himself a magician. The reason why, well, we'll just say it begins with he's a writer. And as such, he has written and created worlds out of nothing but his imagination. And he's told a heck of a story. And as we all know, telling stories is really super important. Today, I want to share something with you that I learned from Alan Moore's masterclass on BBC Maestro. Super interesting stuff. And it's basically what you need to be a really good writer. And it begins with the suits. Let's see if I can make this, expand this. Nope. Yeah, looks like it'll work. Okay, so in the tarot, there are four suits. There's the pentacles, the wands, the cups, and the swords. He calls these his four weapons. And what that means is, let's just pop this sucker open. Let's see. What that means is this. As a writer, you will need cups, wands, pentacles, and swords. For those of you who aren't familiar with the tarot came before the modern day deck of cards. And it's super interesting stuff that we won't be getting into, but it has four suits that represent the four primary powers of life. In this metaphor that Alan Moore is talking about, to be a successful writer, you will have to have the pentacles, which is usually known as the coins. Coins are the material realm. And they're things like you got to have your finances dialed in, right? You need to make money as a writer. You also have to understand the material world. And to do that, you have to study it. So if you're going to write about crime procedurals, you have to understand how police do research into, how a detective would do their forensic analysis. Or if you're going to write about a hospital, you have to understand how hospitals work. So this understanding of the material world and mastery of the material world is super important for the magician who's going to create a story out of nothing but their imagination, right? And how they're going to craft their tale. The cups are for emotion. Emotions like compassion, for example. You have to have compassion for your villain. The villain isn't just a bad person. They got there somehow, and they got there through a series of experiences and the way that they responded to those experiences. And that's what's going to make your villain not only believable, but somebody that the audience might actually kind of empathize with and understand why they did what they did, because it's the job of the villain to kind of be a counterpoint to the hero. The thing about a villain is that the difference between the villain's journey and the hero's journey is the villain never asks whether or not what they're doing is right. Right? The hero is conflicted by, is this the right thing to do or not? And oftentimes the hero can actually cause a lot of suffering, inadvertently, especially in the world of comics. Like Iron Man has caused a lot of destruction, right? The Avengers have caused a huge amount of financial damage to the city of New York because of their fighting. All right. So then there's the wand. We'll get to the wands last. The sword represents the discriminating intellect. You have to be able to tell whether or not what you're writing is crap or if it's actually good stuff. You have to be able to think and analyze and separate the wheat from the chaff, so to speak. Finally, there is the wand. And the wand is the will of the wizard made manifest. Okay? The will of the wizard is, let me just quick see if I can switch to me. Bonk. There I am. So the will of the wizard is what keeps things on track. You have this imagination that's so vibrant and so into making new worlds and coming up with new ideas. But if you don't have the will to contain that, then you're never going to finish your stories. And you have to finish your stories. You have to finish your writing and get it out there. Because if you don't, well, it doesn't do anybody any good, right? This has been look at this. I'll just quick pop back to Bunka Bunka. Here we go, right? The pentacles. Again, to recap, the pentacles are the coins and discs in the tarot. They're about wealth and the physical realm. The wand is about not just creativity, but it's action that comes from will. Cups are emotion, all right? So the empathy that you're going to have and the compassion you're going to have for your villain, for your characters, because if you don't have empathy with the people you're writing about, nobody's going to care, right? You're not going to be able to get inside of their head and understand them and their motivation so that you can make people give a damn. And finally, thinking, which is the swords. The wizard's wand, by the way, this is Athame is kind of a wizard's wand of sorts as well, but it's thought and discrimination so that you create stuff that is actually good and not crap. This has been a attempt to summarize a little bit of the teachings of Alan Moore's masterclass. It's freaking great. The guy that will blow your mind. And I hope you maybe consider taking the course and learning about the power of language to sculpt the world around you and to build stories to change, the world through stories, because nothing moves us like a good story.